What is up? On one of my videos from a few years ago, I was showing how I went to a service call at night, and it had one of these carrier package units that had the restricted accurators, they call them. The accurator is just their trade name, but it's basically, and Train does it too, they have multiple orifices, one for each pass through the evaporator coil, and they're trapped in between the little crimped dimples on the copper line. So you got this header of all liquid coming from the condenser, and then as it branches out to the parallel circuits, there's a piston, one for each circuit going into the evaporator, and then they each, after it goes through, it comes back out and joins back to the suction. And so this guy asked, do you have a video on a conversion to a TXV metering device? I think I mentioned in this video I'd like to do that. Just cut these out and just put a TXV in there. Make it better. Don't just fix it. Make it better. So I looked and I didn't have a video. But I was recalling me doing that not too long ago. And I found the files from it, but I never made a video. And I think the reason was like I was missing a video clip or something in here. So I have a couple video clips. So but basically let me go, here's the unit. And look at this. It is sweating all the way back to the compressor. The compressor, look, the whole top of this reciprocating compressor is just sweating. But the thing was, if you measured the temperature a drop across the coil, it was like 3 degrees or 5 degrees. It was pathetic. It was hardly doing any work across the coil. Yet, when you check the pressures here, there's like 91, 84, so it's like 7, 8 degrees of subcooling, and then here 45, 55, 10 degrees superheat. You think, hey, that thing, that's pressures and subcool superheat. You would think that'd just be a normally operating unit, but it wasn't, because somehow one of these accurators wasn't, instead of being restricted, one was like flooding through, and maybe the other one's restricted. I don't know, somehow a column of liquid, and it looks like it was up here, maybe, was going right through one of these circuits and coming right back, not boiled off, and it wasn't, it was such a way that, like I said, it wasn't restricted, because the suction, look at that, the suction was 75 on R22. It was just pushing right through, somehow just enough that made the pressures normal, but yet a lot of the liquid was just going back and coming right back to the compressor. Look, the compressor's 57 degrees, yet the coil is 74. How could the coil be 74 and the compressor be colder? It's because this isn't doing any work, because it was like restricted or not flowing any in this section. 62 down there, so somehow it was just pushed flooding through in like one of the circuits. Here's my coworker cleaning out a bunch of pigeons. That was nice of the newbie to do that. He was new at the time. He put on the gloves and cleaned it out while I was recovering there. And here's a side shot after it wasn't running. So here's a video clip I did take of the unit. Yeah, well, it pretty much explains what I just did, so I guess I'm just going to pass that one. So here, I cut out, this is what I like to do. I just take, like, side cutters, dikes, and just cut it. Clip, 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 clip. Don't even need to use 2B cutters. Can't even get them in there. Just cut it out. Who cares? It's going to bend this. And this, obviously, I believe is after I cut and then open this back up with my old screwdriver. But I was just showing you here the manifold. This was liquid, and then the little dimples, the accurators are all trapped in here, and then this is where it feeds into each circuit. And you can tell this coil, this wasn't exactly a new unit. This here is where it gets cool. This was all homemade. I didn't buy any pre-made distributor system, and I've done this many times, and guess what? It pretty much just seems to work perfect every time. So, but here's the thing I do. Like, this is a capillary tubes. I just get the bigger diameter, and I cut them all even length. That's important. If you have small diameter feeders after a TXV, you need to make these even length, because these are also going to restrict refrigerant flow to some degree. So you need them even, or you're going to starve some circuits more than others. All the same length. You count how many circuits you got, and you put those in there, and you just weld it. I flatten this, and I weld it shut. You'll see some units actually look like this from the factory, And then I just start with like the longer ones. I make them so the longest ones I make just to reach over here. And I think I was almost a little short there, so I just barely got these in here. But I want it as least as possible, because it is capillary, like refrigeration tubing. You make it too long, it's going to restrict too much. And then, so you start with the 2 longest ones, and then you go to the next ones, and you basically just loop up the excess you know, feeders. But the thing is, this is the same length here as this is here. They're all this equal length, just like full length headers on your car. They're all the same length. So that's why they have to wrap some of them sometimes. And then I think this was a video of
Okay, did not record the process, but this is the new TXV feeder assembly. All equally cut capillary tube, the largest diameter. Weld the two end ones in first, and then you just kind of loop up the longer ones that go to the middle. Put the TXV on there. This coil is now ready to drop back into this whore of a Carrier. So, ready to get her done.
So I didn't capture a whole lot of it, and there it is installed. It basically filter dryer, then into the TXV there, and then into my little piece I made, which you saw that long piece of copper. I just made it there to weld, and I cut it short, and then I have it go into a reducer here, and then that was back into the coil. You got the sensing bulb up there, and the straightest part, you know, and away from the turn here like you want to do. And that was the last photo, so it's like, oh, a couple more. So there's a side shot, so we're coming in and going there. It worked out pretty nice. I think I do have one more video clip.
Alright,
oh, that's just me vacuuming down and explaining what I'm explaining now. So when I got done, it had more of a load in there, so it looked like a little over 200 psi and about 95 on the suction. It was nice and warm in there, but it was doing a lot of work. 103 and 66. So 103. I don't. Might have been before I added a little more refrigerator. Didn't even have 10 degrees subcooling there yet. I only had like a couple degrees subcooling. 66. Yeah, that was only at, yeah, I didn't even have 10 degrees subcooling. I only had like 1 or 2 degrees subcooling, and already the superheat was like, you know, about 9 there. So it was flooding pretty good. I was worried, you know, I get worried when I use those capillary tubes here instead of like larger diameter, but it's a lot easier to make it fit and bend it if you use capillary tube. And this is just buying one of those boxed capillary tube sets, like for, you know, for a reach-in or something. I just get the largest diameter they sell and then just keep it as short as possible. It's okay that it's restricting a little bit. You got to keep them all even length because the TXV is going to open and adjust. And I definitely make sure I go a little bit on the capacity, or just a pinch larger, you know, on the TXV when I do that. And if you don't, if you cut a little shy on the TXV and then you add a capillary tube after it, you might restrict. It didn't. It worked great. I think that's why I had this kind of like a here, like that. So, oh, that's what happened. Now I remember. That was a success, but the compressor was already damaged. It was a little low on compression. That's why, after I fired it up, that's why this discharge was a little low and the suction was a little high, so I kind of screwed up my example. And that's what I have. I installed TXV incomplete because the comp was bad. This is my old notes, and it looks like I didn't put a follow-up after that. But anyway, I know that worked out. It worked out great. So there's a kind of what I do to take out Accurators and put in a TXV. Even if you can't find a distributor, you know, pre-made, which is definitely a lot easier to do than this, you could make it just out of capillary tubes and some pipe.